All right, it is Wednesday. It is 4:30 p.m. Central Time in a very, very, very cold Chicago. Hey there, Andrew. How are things?
I was gonna say it's January in Northern Illinois, so freezing. As you can see, even Snoopy and Woodstock here in Chicago are trying to stay warm.
Yep, I see that. I see that. All right. Last week we spent the entire session on basically summarizing the year or the last year, 2024. So if you didn't see that session, by all means go back and watch the recording. It's up on our channel as usual. Other than that, today we are back in the usual business. And for those of you that are new to our office hours here, we usually divide that time by spending 15-20 minutes on updates from the last week, and then we spend the rest of questions and answers for whatever topic that is being sent in to us. We broadcast these things on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, so plenty of options to join there. But Andrew, what's new?
Oh, there's always something, that's for sure. So I got a few things that I wanted to share today. One of the first ones here, I mentioned a couple of scripts from Timmy Anderson last week when we were talking about another tool from ConfigMgr around basically identifying what various policies, applications, things like that we have assigned to our groups in Intune. There are a number of tools that can help us do that depending on what we're trying to identify. And right here at the end of the year, Timmy added a new script. He's got a couple of scripts that help with that process, but has a new script to get all of the required assigned applications for all of the Entra groups that you have things assigned to. So I thought that this was... I know that this is going to be very useful to a lot of Intune admins because our assignments can get unwieldy very quickly. So I just wanted to make sure that I called that out today. It's a fantastic resource here to throw in your scripts. So thank you, Timmy, for putting that out there. Also came across a blog post from our friend Mike Niehaus that he posted at the end of the year here around Windows imaging and licensing. I'm not going to get everybody's heart rate up talking about licensing, but definitely recommend you going and checking out Michael's blog post here. He does a great job, as always, kind of talking through some of the nuance of licensing. Of course, Michael is not a Microsoft account rep or a licensing expert. I always make sure that we say those things when we're talking about licensing. But a different perspective, I think, is always a good thing. And Michael focuses mostly around imaging and how that relates to the licensing types that we have available to us. So another good licensing resource here that I wanted to call out. It is interesting that some of the products aren't even necessarily available depending on what type of contract you have with Microsoft. So I had never come across this chart before. I thought that was a pretty interesting one. Also noticed that our friends over at MS Endpoint Manager, I came across, I think we referenced this blog post, maybe you brought it up back in October, Johan, when Ben first posted this, on unpacking the the Intune MDM certificate. Here in December, Ben added the Entra ID certificate as well to this blog post and updated the associated script that sort of helps you decode that certificate. It is a tiny deep dive, as Ben mentions here, but it is a deep dive nonetheless into what some of the various attributes and values of these certificates mean to you on these devices.
Well, I just wanted to put something out there. I really like the people over at Patch My PC. Great folks, but when they say tiny deep dive, no, It's usually like a 20-page document with all sorts of gory details in it. So deep dive, yes, absolutely great stuff. Tiny, not so much. No.
I would have to agree. This one is a little lengthy here, but fantastic information, as you said. And then last but not least, Johan and I were both following a thread from Aria over at Microsoft, just asking, kind of putting a call out there on Twitter. If there's one thing this year about Windows updates that you could change, what would it be? And there were several replies to that thread. But one that caught my eye was another friend of ours, Brooks Pepin, mentioned better reporting in Intune on the Windows Update for Business stuff at the device level. Potentially seeing which rings are assigned to the device, which updates are available, what the deadlines look like. And I agree entirely. I would like that to be easier for us to identify that information on the client side. And Brian Dan replied to that with a script that looks like he's had it out there for a while, and I just happened to miss it. But he wrote a script that attempts to get some of this information for our clients. And he has it posted up here on GitHub. And again, just another tool to help us figure out what assignments are made to a client, essentially. Quite a few functions in this PowerShell script, it looks like. I haven't had the chance to even run it myself yet, but I generally trust anything that Brian's putting out there, and he has put out some fantastic scripts around Windows updates over the last 10 years, 5 to 10 years. So this is another thing that I'm also going to be throwing in my toolbox. I was happy that I caught that reply in that thread. Wanted to share it all with you, share it with you all as well. So yeah, I think that's my rambling for the moment, Johan.
All right. I have a few things on my mind, so let's go ahead and share my screen here. And there we go. First of all, it's not really technical, but I'm quite happy for it. I managed to become an American citizen yesterday. Been on that journey for a bit. Thank you, sir.
Yay.
And so here I am.
We're very happy to have you, I must say.
Yeah, it was just a small group of us. There were 109 people, 49 different countries taking the oath in front of a judge there. And yeah, it was a nice trip into Chicago and back home again.
So cool. Well, congratulations, sir.
Thank you. But now back to the normal topics. First of all, literally a few minutes before we started here today, I managed to finish up a blog post I've been working on. We got a step back 2 seconds. On the Academy, we have a community. Most of you know that already. We have grown significantly over the holidays. So we have 500 members now. We were only a few hundred before Christmas. But we got a question in there. And the question was, how can I use PSD to deploy Windows 11 so it ends up in out-of-box experience? Typically, it's something you use for Autopilot, but you can use the same techniques for testing audit mode or other setup type troubleshooting. But long story short, I put that blog post together. It's a script that you add to your deployment share, and then you simply copy or configure your sequence to copy down that script during the WinPE phase. Because the trick to get the machine into out-of-box experience is to make sure you delete everything that is related to the deployment solution that was running it. And I can't do that while I'm running the sequence. But I can copy the script that does the cleanup when I'm running the sequence. And then I'm leveraging an unattend file to actually remove or run the script that will do the cleanup after reboot. Because when you deploy Windows, and this goes back to Windows Vista days, but after the WinPE phase, when the device reboots, it comes up in a specialized pass. That's pass number 4. That's before out-of-box experience. So if you need to do something before out-of-box experience, that's the pass to do it. So in that pass, I simply here added a 10 file that is very, very small, that just runs that script. The only challenge with the specialized pass is that it's really painful to troubleshoot, because if you have tiny typo in the script, it just continues and does whatever. There is like no immediate pause for it. But what you can do is that you can simply add in this to just open a PowerShell prompt, and it will sit there and wait for your input. And at that point, you can run whatever script and test and edit and whatnot. So yeah, long story short, a post on how to do that. And as a bonus, you'll learn a little bit about the setup engine and the order of things, how it works. So something to try.
Very cool.
Thank you. Then we had Martin Himken that stumbled across a bug in the December update of Windows 11 24H2. So I figured I could show you that bug. So let me see if I can get that window over to this computer. Here we are. Yeah, that looks okay. So if I go to like any internet resource, I'm stealing Andrew's latest changes here of the hydration kit, but I'm downloading this archive. And you know that when you download stuff over the internet that get tagged with a zone identifier, they usually call it mark of the web or MOTW, but it's a streams provider and identifier on the file. So if you do properties on it, you can unblock, and you can also do it in PowerShell and check it if you want. So there's a streams command you can add to a PowerShell script. But long story short, if I unblock this one and hit OK, and go back again, it's still unblocked. When I've tried to do this again, it gets mad at me. So I can't do that. In fact, it has already removed it. It just doesn't show that it has removed it. And if you try to copy the file, the copy will get the block back again. But the trick to do is the following. So let's see if I can get this up in... Let me download that one again. So now I have the file. I will once again do an unblock. And then before checking again, I will close the Explorer window. And I will go and close all Explorer windows. And I will restart. If I can spell Explorer, that would be great. Restart this one. I should get my start menu back here shortly. That's the idea. What can go wrong in a live demo?
Surely nothing when you're restarting Explorer.exe.
Let me try to just run it. There we go. Back again. Go to the downloads folder. Check the file again. Gone. So they should have caught that in testing. They didn't. So that's a little bit of a bug right now in 24H2 December update only.
So basically the change is still happening. It's just not being displayed properly.
Yeah, and you cannot use it until you close your Explorer windows or rename the file, as Martin found out also.
Ugh.
It's like there is a handle or something open to it. So anywho, I thought that was a cool thing to share. Last week, or technically, well, early this week, we finished up our ConfigMas videos on YouTube. My intention was to do one every day. That didn't happen. I simply couldn't find the time, but I ended up doing 5 of them during the 12-day after Christmas there. So we did large-scale automation in these videos, and if you're interested in doing a lot of automation around mass deployments of Windows for config manager testing or application testing or whatever you need to do. Check out those scripts. They have been published up to the GitHub repository. Also, you find links, etc., in the videos. But that's what I spent my last days of the Christmas holidays with. So they are available. Finally, Rudy over at Patch My PC put together a fantastic blog post yesterday. No, earlier today, actually. I think I saw it. Yeah, January 8th. Yeah.
It was my first text message of the morning at about 7 a.m. So
I can wonder what idiot sent you that message.
it was a worthwhile text message because this blog post is awesome.
It is. It kind of ties into the event we did on the community just before Christmas here, but on December 20, we had it turned out to be half an hour session on technical drill down to software updates, and we covered feature updates in that one. And the recording is available if you guys want to view it. But this blog post takes that one step further and explains the decision making and how the auto patch and Windows Update for Business Deployment Service is involved in that process. Obviously, auto patch is only used when you have auto patch, but this one is always used when you use the feature update windows the feature update policy type in Intune to do feature updates. So, absolutely great post. Highly recommend reading. All right. That was all I had in terms of news.
Awesome. Well, some great stuff coming out of the community, as always, over the last couple of weeks. We did actually have a few questions from last week I thought we could, or probably should touch on real quick before we get to today's, if you don't mind.
I do not mind at all.
All right. So first question was, we've got a few questions from Sahid that joined us here on YouTube. The first one was, what can make a device during PXE troubleshooting communicate with other devices aside from the ConfigMgr server?
Well, to that, I have an amazing answer, humble as I am. No, but based on that query, I actually did record a video somewhere here on how you can troubleshoot PXE using Wireshark. So that's one option to do troubleshooting of it. So it's a 7-minute long video, easy to watch. And then back in 2022, I did another one, but that one focused on troubleshooting with PowerShell. So if you combine these two videos, you get a good understanding on how to effectively troubleshoot PXE. I do recommend the PowerShell route because it's so quick to do. Just download the script and run it. The Wireshark one is obviously a little bit more time consuming, but still you can get that going in 10-15 minutes or so. So fairly easy to work with. So that's, I hope, a good answer to that question.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Another question here was, what permissions are needed to check the policy deployment status on a device in Graph Explorer?
I'll leave that one to you, sir. I'm going to snatch these links so we can share them in the...
Yeah, I'm going to see if we can find that. Let's see, because I don't know the answer off the top of my head. My first, the starting point would be device management read. But that might not be the only one. So let's see, device management.
Can you repeat the question, because I can apparently not? do
Yeah,
and
yeah.
listen at the same time.
What permissions are needed to check the policy deployment status on a device in Graph Explorer?
Deployment of what?
Did not specify, just said policy. So I'm thinking something like a configuration profile, maybe. So Matt mentioned here in the chat, I think read write. But manage devices isn't going to get you that because that's only going to get you the device object information.
I don't know that one on top of my head. Might have to take that one as a bit of homework. Figure out.
Yeah, I'll write it down as well because there are different endpoints for the various resources in Intune. Great question, Johan. You asked what assignment are we talking about? It may be a permission that you need on the applications endpoint or device configurations endpoint.
Matt is mentioned here in the chat also. Graph X-Ray might give us a hint for that as a good tip.
Yep.
Also, when you work with Graph Explorer and you're trying to do things in Graph Explorer and you don't have permissions to do it, it's going to tell you what permissions you need to run it. So, but we can work on that throughout the week here and see if we can come up with something. Maybe a nice blog post, Andrew. You never know.
I literally was writing that as a note right now.
I know you so well.
Yes, you do.
All right.
I got that note. Fantastic question. And then I'm seeing devices take 3 to 4 days before Windows 11 feature update is offered. And to sort of piggyback on that, a similar question that we just got today here from Matt. Do you know why Windows 11 24H2 feature upgrade sometimes is not working? I have VMs that haven't received it. Any general troubleshooting tips, I guess, Johan, that you can think of for those feature updates not being offered or taking a while for them to be offered?
Yeah, pretty much read Rudy's post from earlier today. Check the video that we did before Christmas here, because we did go through some of those scenarios and how you can verify that the policies actually exist on the device. We showcased that script from Brian Dam that actually looks into the deployment service and shows you the policies there, because they do not show up where the normal policies are. And we also spend some time on verifying that you have the right license for it, because the feature update component in Intune is leveraging the deployment service and you need a license for that one. It's not an Intune license, it's a Windows license. So there's a lot of moving components, but Rudy's post tells you kind of why that is and how it works. So I would recommend starting there. Very timely posting, I might say.
Yeah, exactly. All right, good stuff. And then the last question from last week was from Alexei. You mentioned the tool WinDiff, and he was wondering if WinDiff works in Windows 11.
It does. I was actually showing it on a Windows 11 24H2 device. So 20-year-old tool still works fine. There are others, but that's a free tool that's been available for years and years and years.
Love it. All right. Well, that was the questions that we still had left over from last week. We wanted to make sure that we touched on those before we moved on. And also before we get to today's questions, I just have to call out, you have several congrats here in the chat for your newfound American citizenship, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate that, everyone.
All right. So I think I know your answer to this, but the first question we got is, have we tested the Linux part of Intune?
No, I have not. I only stumbled across a blog post a while back saying that the enrollment instructions on the website were wrong, and somebody wrote a blog post on how to do it correctly. I remember scribbling down on one of my to-do lists. I have several to-do list that I will record a video of enrolling an Ubuntu device into Intune, but I haven't done that yet. Let's see if I find a link to that blog post, because I'm pretty sure I saved it. Yes. So I'm not sure if the documentation has been updated. It was not a blog post, it was a pull request for the documentation, but someone found that
Okay.
the instructions were not entirely correct here. So we'll see.
Yeah, it looks like actually Uger reported that, and he wrote a blog post on it just 3
Oh,
weeks
he
ago.
did right. Okay. Do you have a link?
I just pulled it up.
There.
It's funny because I also happened to just come across this, and when you pulled up that pull request, I saw his name up there. So yeah, I mean, this is the extent that I've dealt with Linux and Intune, as well as I noticed the headline of this blog post over the last week or so.
I mean, Linux always had a good place in my heart, in addition to Windows. So I had a dark past where I, for 18 months, worked for a company where we built firewalls with Linux and sold. That was fun.
Sounds like it. I was just watching a live stream from Tom. Is that his name? No, Lawrence Systems YouTube channel. Have you ever seen him before?
Tim Lawrence?
Or Tom, maybe?
Tom or
Tim or
Tim?
Tom? Yeah, one or the other. I cannot remember. I think. Anyways, whatever. He was talking about how a lot of those old Linux firewall distros that we don't have with us anymore, we're pretty much down to pfSense and OpenSense, and that's it. No more smooth wall or mono wall or good old days.
It is Tom. I had
Tom,
a consulting session with him a while ago. He was helping me with one of my routers.
no kidding.
Yeah,
He-
no,
he's got an awesome channel, by the way. Lawrence Systems is the channel.
yeah,
Yeah.
really good stuff.
Yes, definitely. Anyways, that's a big sidebar. All right, let's see here.
And consulting session was he helping me. I just want to point that out.
Yes.
I have little to teach him about networking.
You might be able to teach him about imaging, though.
Possibly.
All right. Got another question here. Do we know anyone that deals with app performance problems? Any IT pros?
App performance problems. How?
Yeah, and I guess would we be one of my questions would be: are we talking about like a client application that you're installing on a client or a server side? Because maybe we know someone. So, Vert, if
I
you've
know
got any
currently
more,
volunteers here.
he'll take care of it.
Yep.
All right. Benny's got a question here. I have some clients which seem to be failing Windows Update for Business updates each month as the OS build seems old. Are there any scripts that we can run and try to resolve any potential issues on the machines or any remediations for this issue?
So the biggest problem was that the October and November media from last year, if they were used to deploy certain devices, they will never receive a patch and patch. One solution is to redeploy them with the December media and the problem goes away. I have not seen a remediation script for it. One possibly exists because, I mean, it was such a global, a lot of people had that issue. So I don't know if Microsoft has released something or if you call their support, if they can give you something to run on the devices, but I have not seen anything. Only workaround I know of is simply reimage the device again, which of course royally is no fun.
No, definitely not. Did it say in the note for that what was actually causing that issue? I mean, perpetually not being able to update is a big deal.
It's a big deal. No, I did not see any reasoning, and I didn't see basically if it was everywhere, because I haven't seen that much of a reporting about it, but I've seen a few.
Mm-hmm. One of the rare times doing the opposite of what we recommend and not updating your media actually helps.
Yeah, and then we're back in business again because you need to update the December media to get it working again.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me see if I can delegate this gentleman's request here. He really wants to go to the other side of the door.
Very important.
Yeah, usually when it comes up like this, it means that I need to leave, and I need to leave quickly. Nothing like a live stream video. No
That's right.
horses this time, though, so that is good.
No, give it time. I mean, it's only the beginning of the year. Surely it will happen in 2025.
I hope not.
I hope not too, for your sake, but for the audience's sake, it does give the rest of us a nice chuckle and a little bit of entertainment. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. My pleasure.
Yeah. All right. So we got another question here. This is a good one. They're all good, but I particularly like this one. Noticed an alert in my ConfigMgr admin node that my database was out of space, up to 500 gigs on January 3rd. Luckily, had a responsive VMware guy that could extend disk quickly. No obvious issues noticed after that. Any suggestions on things to check to make sure we're good?
The most common reason for a disk growing beyond everything, or a database growing beyond everything with ConfigMgr is usually that the reporting services database is configured for full recovery instead of simple recovery. It's one of those default settings that turn out to be not great. I had a log file that was like a terabyte because I forgot that in one of my labs. So I will check that one first, because if that's the case, you can just truncate it and you're good. You're back in business, and change that. I can actually bring it up and show. I redid all my firewalls the other day here, so fresh version of PXEusing everywhere, but I didn't fully complete it, so I have to show it on a different way. Here. I usually use the remote desktop manager, but since I don't have a route yet to all of these servers, I cannot use it for all of them. I got like halfway done last night. But yeah.
Nothing like a couple of late nights upgrading and messing with infrastructure.
Yep.
And that wasn't even sarcasm. It actually just happens to be one of my favorite things.
Yeah, I managed to burn one of my PCI Express slots by slightly misaligning a storage card also during the holidays. I was mad. It's only that port, but it was annoying.
Mm-hmm.
So now I have to replace the motherboard to fix it. There's no patch for smoke coming out of a port.
That's not good.
No, databases. While we're waiting for this one, Andrew, do you remember who blogged about the growing issue that happened last year that I know you were heavily involved with also in one of the environments we work with?
That is a great question. Yes. I believe
But
I do.
anywho,
I'll find it.
go to properties of your report server, check options, and make sure that the recovery model is set to simple. That's where I would start. And of course, you can just check the log files of that one, or just right click and the report and disk usage. And it will tell you if you have a terabyte of data or not. But the log files shouldn't be that large for this, but it can be super large if it happens. So maybe there.
There it is. I found it. It was Rudy Bankson. I couldn't find the blog post, though.
You have it up on your screen?
I do now, yes.
All right, let me flip over to that one. Yeah.
So, yeah, basically this was a table was growing at 1 gig per minute. And I didn't hear too much about this, but at least maybe a half a dozen people or so on Twitter posted about it. I ran into it. It was not fun.
Wasn't that like one of those Sunday 5 a.m. morning calls?
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't great. And that's one of those, like, I remember even reaching out to you in the morning, which I don't like to do. I don't like to ask you to help me troubleshoot, but that required it. So yeah, it was basically log data that was filling it up, and you had to run this stored procedure here to clear it out. And I would say here too, Rudy's got the disclosure here. It's not supported unless Microsoft tells you to do it.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind.
So long story, call support.
Yeah.
Possibly reference this.
Yep. And I believe this was a bug that was then later fixed. But yeah, thank you for the reminder, Johan. I'll make sure that this link gets posted. Just it is another thing to check. And then just general, that's specific to the database itself, but just general disk space monitoring, through, if you've got Nagios or PRTG or whatever your monitoring tool is, keep an eye out there.
SCOM, mom.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's see, what else do we have? Got a question from Terry here over on YouTube. I can't change the time zone using AutopilotBranding. It's packaged as a Win32 app and is in the ESP as a blocking app. I skip account setup in ESP and even log in as admin after reboot. Any suggestions?
No, I have not tried Nearhouse's latest Autopilot branding there. He did some updates to it just around Christmas here. Yeah, he did release November. Oh, it was after Christmas. It was December 27. He released a new version of the Autopilot branding. But there was nothing mentioned on the time zone. Let me go ahead and share my screen there. So this was the release that was done. But there is nothing mentioned on the time zone. I don't know. I can ask Niehaus and see if he happens to know. It's nothing I have tested.
No, just a general troubleshooting thing. If you have the Win32 app and it's assigned, or it's in the ESP as a blocking app, make sure that the app is actually assigned to the device as well. Something that bit me early on in my Autopilot career is, I have the application here. Why isn't it working? I just hadn't assigned it. That's all. So double check that as well. Could be a more complex problem than that, but something to mention.
Yeah, I'm typing up a message to him and see what it says.
Sounds good. Yes, there's certainly a gentleman that knows a thing or two about Autopilot. There's no doubt about that.
A little bit. All right. Question sent.
All right. So we've got Keith joining us over on YouTube, asking what is the best way to manage, configure the ADR for Windows 11 23H2 or 24H2 feature updates within ConfigMgr. I'm currently using add to existing deployment, but it is not overwriting the existing not overwriting existing content, but adding.
Yeah, so it's the group that is deployed. The content goes in the package. And you typically use the same package. So it just builds up that over time and it becomes quite large because those feature updates are not exactly small. So need to do some housekeeping there of the content and not store like forever of packages or updates in that content or in that package. I've seen those update packages easily grow to 100 gig in size, even though that size sometimes lies to you because of the new UUP updates.
Mm-hmm.
Or new, 2 years old now, but somewhat new. Don't have any other tips than cleanup on top of my head of the package. Maybe, yeah, let me noodle on that one until next week and see if I can write up something to explain it better.
Okay. Yeah, Keith said yes with UUP in 3 months. It's sitting at 36 gigs.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
I usually say less than 100, and that package is pretty good.
So Matt's got a question here. I've showed this before, but asking me because I've showed this configuration before. But do I know of or have I faced any issues with adding users to an admin group and removing it via Intune? Matt's having a conflict even when the user is not in the group. I have not. Actually, ever since they added the account protection policies under the endpoint security node in Intune. And actually, I can pull that up, Johan, if you want. I can show where I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
But ever since these were added, they've been pretty rock solid in my experience. So under the endpoint security node here, we have the account protection page. I've got a couple of different policies that I've played around with in my lab. You can see over the last few months. One that I've used quite frequently is this add Entra ID users to local administrators. And it's simply, if I go into edit here, taking and updating the local administrators group. You can see update rather than replace. And there are 2 users that are being added into that local admin group. 2 very good friends of mine, Johan and Darth Vader. And in general, this has worked okay. So I haven't really had a need to troubleshoot anything on that. the obvious stuff, and Matt, you probably already know this, but the obvious stuff, or obvious place that I would start, um, checking the device assignment and the per setting status here. See if you mentioned conflicts. If it's a conflict within Intune, obviously it should show up there. Yeah. Anything you've come across, Johan?
No, only I managed to deploy two of them to the same device and didn't like that.
Yeah. That makes sense. So stick to one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Other than that, now I say ever since Microsoft added this feature, because what we had to do 3 years ago was put together an XML document and make sure everything was formatted correctly and your SIDs were correct, and you had to
Stars
have closed.
aligned and yeah.
Exactly. The proper horoscope and whatever else. So no, nothing I've come across, Matt. But if you end up having more, more details or anything, go ahead and drop me a line or pop it into the chat. I'll see if I can help. Dennis is asking, what is the best method to integrate remote control in OSD while still in WinPE?
Yeah, that I can answer.
I thought as much.
There are basically three good solutions out there. The good old Dart still works beautifully as long as you have line of sight to the machine, like routing wise. So it cannot be behind a NAT gate or anything like that. Dart is still available, still works in the latest ADK, even though it's 9 years old now, 10 years old, 2015. Latest update on that one. But that one is easy to add. I have a script here that added a ConfigMgr boot image and starting it right away. Gary also has his blog is up and running here. Let's see, he had some performance hiccups on that one before Christmas. Let's see if it's back on track.
You should tell them about caching.
Yeah, a bit of Cloudflare should be helpful. But if you search for VNC on his blog, there is a blog post on how to implement that into your boot image. And the beautiful thing about VNC is that supports repeaters, so you can have machines behind the gateway and still be able to reach them. It works like TeamViewer. A third option is Mesh Central, that we have mentioned a few times here in the forum. But this is also free, open source. Also works with repeaters. Also works in WinPE. So useful utility. So any of those three, I'll say, is good.
Awesome. Good to have options.
Yep.
Jamie's asking, what about remote help in WinPE for ARM?
I have not tried. Dart does not. I don't know if Dart works in ARM, actually. I haven't tried. Might be hope, because there is, in the latest version of the ADK, there is a x64 emulator in WinPE for ARM. So it might work. I just haven't tested. But, well, why not? Try Dart in ARM PE. That'll be my homework then.
Sounds good. We'll be busy the next week,
Yeah.
as opposed to all the other weeks, right?
Yeah, where we do absolutely nothing, just chilling.
We'll get this 1 week out of the way right at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions?
I'm double checking. We got some great stuff today. Some good stumpers. Usually we like those.
Yeah.
Happen to like them today. This will help the, it's 9 degrees outside. It's January. It's dark already. Still trying to shake the rust off from the holidays.
Yep. Indeed.
I'll take the homework.
Yeah, I don't see any other questions coming in at the moment.
No, I just saw Jamie apologized for giving us homework. Please don't. We love it. I'm just trying to be funny.
No, that's why we are here.
That's
the
right.
whole point.
Exactly.
All right. I don't see any more questions coming in. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you, Andrew. Good to be back in business after the holidays. And have a great rest of your week, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Johan. Thanks, everybody.